So while Noah tries to get his inevitable audio problems sorted out, you want to hear something funny? I was re-listening to our Insidious episode the other day, and I remembered something that I can't believe I neglected to mention at the time, which is that me and my boss one time were talking about like astral projection and like sleep paralysis and stuff, and he told me that when he was a kid, his sleep paralysis demon was the Undertaker.
Oh.
Like he would just open his eyes in the middle of the night and the Undertaker would be there.
That's super valid.
Yikes.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to experience that.
Right? Yeah, he thinks that he shouldn't have been watching pro wrestling when he was that young.
It's a scarring experience.
I don't quite understand that, but okay.
All those,
It does explain a little bit about him as a
veiled
person.
penises.
Oh, that's true.
I'm amazed that he's
a young
not gay.
boy shouldn't
Looking
look
all
at
those
that. Yeah.
Oiled up, sweaty buff men.
Yeah, that's gonna make people gay.
It does seem kind of gay now that I'm thinking about it.
Does seem a little gay.
That's how we secretly recruit children into
That's
the
gay
alphabet
agenda.
mafia.
The gay agenda has
The
been
alphabet
WWE the whole time.
Hey, welcome back to Casual Obsession, the horror movie podcast where Jeff just makes a meme out of everything I say. We're here this week to talk about Hell House LLC. Jeff, on my side, your camera froze, so you're just giving me like this death glare as I'm making that joke, and I'm like, I thought it was funny.
It was. I just didn't realize that's what I do here.
But yeah, we're here to talk about Hell House LLC, or as the minisode that came out definitely earlier this week tells you, it's our first found footage movie that we've covered on the podcast.
Yay!
Yeah.
I don't remember the flow of things off the top of my head now.
Well, in the
Introductions.
beginning, yeah, we all say our names and what we're
We all
drinking
say-
today, and then
Just whenever you're ready, Noah, we can start.
whenever
Okay.
you're ready. That's
Okay.
the step that we skipped is the gaslighting.
I'm Noah. Someone else fucking talk.
I'm
I have to
Emma.
try like this.
You gotta say
I'm
what you're
Nina.
drinking.
Hi, it's me, Nina, and we're both having Bloody Marys. So
Except it's
Hell yeah, we
St.
are.
Patrick's Day, so you have to call it a Bloody Murphy. In honor
It's
of
not
that,
St.
I am
Patrick's
drinking
Day.
this Guinness.
the little whistle.
Hopefully that comes across well.
Jeff died for this. What about you, Emma?
I said I was literally
She
the
did.
first one.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Catch
Because
up
you were
now.
Anyway.
laughing.
This
He
is
must not
going
have been
really
ready.
well so far.
This is a great episode so far.
This is
Definitely
so-
not a train
We're on
wreck.
topic. We're not getting confused about anything.
We didn't talk about our animated crushes for the first 30 minutes.
No, not at all.
Um,
Let me tell you about Hell House.
yeah.
Let me
Give us that
give you a-
non-spoilery summary.
Sorry, this is a family show. You got to call it Heck House.
Let me tell you about Heck House. Heck House is a documentary-style found footage movie devoted to investigating the events of a scare malfunction at a haunt on October 8th, 2009. Worth noting, a lot of stuff pops up when you Google this movie. Was Hell House real? Is the Abaddon Hotel real? It's not a real story. Every
But the
found
Abaddon
footage
Hotel-
movie pretends to be a real story. It's not a real story.
But the Abaddon Hotel
People-
is a real place, right?
Like
'Cause
the
I'm pretty
building
sure
or the Abaddon Hotel?
The Abaddon Hotel.
Might be. I don't know.
Okay, I feel like I've heard the name before in relation to something.
I feel like it's just a popular name, not for like hotels, but like for hotels in horror movies. It seems like get it? It's an Abaddon blank. You know,
You get it? because Abaddon is a word used in the Bible to indicate the abyss. It's about hell. It's Bible stuff. We're cool.
Finger guns.
We're smart people when we write things.
Anyway, movie summary.
The hotel is not real. I took a 30-second Google.
I
am
wasn't going to
more
take a
real.
30-second Google.
We
A
need to
30-second
be
Google.
on top
In
of things.
early September, 5 friends hop in a van and travel to Rockland County, just outside of New York City. These friends, who I didn't figure their names out till the literal end of the movie, because I just was having a bad time tracking faces. Alex, Mac, Tony, Sarah, and Paul. I only knew who Paul was for the entire movie. And Sarah, because obvious reasons. Anyway.
What was the reason?
She had the longest hair. Second only to
That's
Paul,
true.
who had the second longest hair.
Well, it's tough to
Which
tell,
is why-
though, because Paul's hair is a little bit curlier. So if he would have straightened it, it might have been just as long.
From the back,
You
yeah.
never know. Anyway, every year this group opens up Hell House, if you will, a traveling haunted attraction. You get the vibe that they just pop around a bunch of the different boroughs of New York every year and do this whole big thing. This is the first year that they seem to have left the city itself and gone to a different location, which happens to be the Abaddon Hotel.
Hey, I'm
Movie
walking
set up
here in
as
Abaddon.
a. How dare you do this to me? I was trying so I didn't make a single Albany joke after we got past the first moment of the movie where they said it was in New York. Anyway, though, as I said, this is a documentary style movie, so we open up with the event. We open up with, hey, this terrible thing happened and 15 people died. And then it goes into like some fun documentary conversation. And then where we're going to end this is a big blew this case wide open moment happens when Sarah, the only surviving member of the Hell House staff, comes in with a bag full of camera equipment, drops it off and says, hey, I'll be interviewed. I know what's all on this, but I haven't looked at it. Go wild. And then the rest of the movie is just, going into the events that were set up in that opening scene. What happened between everything being fine and everything being awful.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And everybody's white.
I mean, yeah.
Haunted houses are kind of a white people thing, aren't they?
Are they?
Actually, the funny thing is the only black actor in the movie is someone who went to the haunted house
Oh.
in the opening scene where they're like interviewing all the victims.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's kind of, but like, it's one of those things where like, I'm pretty sure Crimson Peak was an all white cast as well. Horror is a genre that has only recently been getting broken into by more people of color, which is just when you're looking at movies from earlier in like until just recently, it's just a unfortunate fact that they haven't been able to break into the genre until just recently.
Bigger budgets had the token black friend. That was a pretty common staple.
The one that's been mocked to death in like satire and such.
I'm in a horror movie. I know I'm gonna die first. That's it's a joke for a reason because that boy howdy did it happen. But yeah, up until recently, the genres were pretty split. There was black horror and there was the rest of horror that encompassed anything and everything else. But then there was horror specifically targeted to the black community,
And
which
the
is
only one that,
super
like,
underground stuff. But like,
really made a crossover, which was actually written and directed by a white person, I believe, but really like branched, was Candyman.
Oh yeah.
Which is one of my favorite horror movies ever, and there's a remake coming out that is actually written and directed.
oh yeah, written by Clive Barker.
Yeah, Clive Barker.
The Pinhead guy, the guy who wrote Hellraiser and hates the name Pinhead.
But the new one is directed by a black woman, and I'm really excited to see this narrative that was very much about black people actually reclaimed and told by black people. So I'm really excited about that.
I think it'll be really cool.
It's exciting.
But an unfortunate part of the genre as a whole is that we won't actually get a lot of people of color in a lot of movies that are before the last like 10 years.
You make me want to pick House of Wax because there's a black guy in that and he survives for more than half of the movie.
Oh, good for him.
Please don't make me watch House of Wax again.
I'm not going to make you watch it
I
again.
don't
It was
wanna
such a
watch
bad
it.
time.
I'm not going to spoil my choice, but we'll get to that later. I have a good choice. I'm excited about my choice.
Yeah. Well, non-spoiler discussion about the movie. What do you think? Y'all, you like it? You don't like it?
I didn't particularly like it.
No.
I was, to use your phrasing, Noah, I was not forming an excess of positive opinions in watching it. And
Did I say that about Poltergeist?
Yeah.
Okay. It's the only thing I could think of that I said that about.
So here's the thing. I had kind of a rough week at work. And when I watched it Friday night was after one of the worst days. I was having a bad time, so that probably influenced my thinking toward the movie. It might be that I'm going to be a little bit too harsh toward it.
I mean, but you also like The Houses October Built and think it's the best found footage movie ever.
It has been a couple of years since I watched
trash,
it.
So
Okay, well, I'm saying I didn't like this
Things
one.
are heating up in the found footage fandom.
Well, I will hopefully...
I'm in the anti-fandom.
in my opening statement be able to persuade you otherwise, but damn.
Okay. I liked the documentary feel of it. I just wish they would have leaned into it a little bit harder.
I can agree with bits of that. There's a few moments where we could have more heavily leaned on like spoiler free. The end of the movie could have been a little more documentary.
That's 100% my like biggest complaint is that they kind of abandoned the documentary style like at the very end.
Mm-hmm. For no real reason.
For most of the latter
could have tied
half,
it up.
really.
Well, I mean, the latter half was the part of the documentary where they just start showing you what happened and the build up to it.
Yeah.
But they could have implemented some more like Q&A time. Bring in that guy with like the weirdly sculpted facial hair.
Yeah.
That well, he was an authority on something. But
I liked him.
Boy, howdy, I don't know what it was.
He lent the documentary feel
him.
so much.
Yeah,
those guys that they were talking to were like the people that you see in documentaries. And it's like, I got no idea who this guy is, but he seems like he knows things.
Mm-hmm.
Those two made it because the one guy was shot on a very professional camera in a well-lit room, and then pink-faced photographer was in this nasty, dingy room, and it looked like he wasn't recording on the best equipment. And he's just like, well, I went and creeped around the place, and I took some photos, but I was too afraid to enter the basement.
Yep.
And then the other guy's like, well, what happened at Hell House? Watch the video yourself. And then you watch the video, and then like 5 seconds later, he's like, yeah, the video doesn't tell us anything.
Yeah.
So Jeff, what's your rating so that I can give my personal opinion because I'm more important.
Okay. I'm gonna give it like a. This is gonna be harsh. I'm gonna give it like a 4.5.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm excited to hear why when we get into spoiler stuff.
Spoilers, it's because I don't like found footage movies.
I think that's a fair thing.
That's literally half of it.
This movie did a lot less of the found footage things that I don't like, honestly.
John, put down the camera. What are you recording? It's gotta be recorded.
The boss says we gotta get everything.
Yeah, it did feel like when you have a friend like who is interested in recording stuff and you just can't get him to stop. And you're like, don't you have anything better to be doing right now? Like, we're literally trying to work. And he's like, this is my job. And you're like, shut up.
Except in this case, it actually was what he was supposed to be doing, which made it worse somehow.
Yeah.
Well,
but also
it,
the incredible found footage trope that the camera guy is just unreasonably horny for no reason.
He is.
Why is that such a consistent beat?
See, that's actually something that I was specifically thinking of. Was a lot of the found footage movies I watch are, well, I mean, that way, firstly, they can do the zoom in on the boob and on the butt and be like,
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, let's put Minetta from My Hero Academia behind the camera. I'm sure nothing will go wrong.
You gotta get them boba shots.
Exactly. An issue that I've had, though, in a lot of found footage movies I've watched is that I feel like the cameraman doesn't have any presence or personality. That's an issue that I actually have encountered a little more.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked that Paul, as obnoxious as he was a very present character that I felt I knew. I knew where he was coming from. I knew where he was going. And I really also enjoyed his random little, hey, I just woke up, I turned this camera on, and I'm going to talk for a minute for no reason at all. And then I'm going to turn the camera off and go back to bed.
No, that is like a thing. Like early YouTube culture, which we are told that this is like early YouTube times.
Yep. 2009, that's the
big
back when Smosh and Ray William Johnson were the
big
we
early
were all
YouTube
listening
energy.
To Asking Alexandria and TikTok by Kesha.
Ah, yeah, Kesha.
Good times.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I actually enjoyed this movie a lot. I thought that it did a lot of things that I don't like about found footage a lot better than I usually see it. There was a lot of my like favorite kind of scare in horror, which is we don't call attention to this thing. It is just there, which is 100% like my favorite. I noticed a couple ones that like I got the vibe you didn't see the first time, especially with the one at the very end. Mm-hmm. And it's super awesome. It's like, wait, let's rewind and take a look because I think I saw something. A couple cool moments
where you pan past, you think you see something, you go back and it's not there.
I love that. I love that stuff so much.
Those are fun.
But yeah, so I would give it probably a solid 7.
Okay.
Yeah, a solid 7.
How about you, Emma?
I said Noah first. I will take it.
I give this an 8 out of 10. I watched it and I'm like, you know what? I bet past Noah gave this a 7 out of 10, and I did. But I liked it more this time. So I give it an 8.
Nice.
I think this is a really good example of a found footage movie that I feel does the job right.
Yeah. So, just for context to everyone, audience, all of you listening out there, I haven't watched a found footage horror movie before this past week, we'll say. My roommate, when I told her what we were going to be watching, confused it with another movie, The Houses October Built, which Jeff described as the best
found footage movie I had ever seen.
Yes, the best found footage movie he had ever seen. And so me and my roommate decided to watch that for fun one night, and I hated it so goddamn much. It was really bad. And then, so I wasn't really looking forward to this movie because I was like, if that was like supposed to be the best one, then I'm probably going to hate this one too.
A reasonable guess, I think.
Yeah, a reasonable guess. But I actually ended up really liking this one. I think it's actually the most pure, like, scary horror movie that we've done so far. And I don't know, it was fun. It was a good time. I watched with my roommate, and she was like jumping and freaking out at various things, and that was really funny. And I was like kind of tense for the whole movie. It obviously has its flaws, and we'll go into that. But I'm gonna give it like an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
No,
oh, thank
no,
goodness.
Like...
I was so afraid that this was going to be a Noah and Nina like it, and that's it. And that I was gonna try and I was gonna have to sit here and be like, no, y'all, I promise this is a good movie. I promise.
No, it was fun. There's a second and a third one, and me and Stacy want to go back and watch those sometime soon.
Let me know, because I looked up the summaries on Wikipedia and I don't want to watch.
I'll let you know what we think.
I did lift some interesting info about this movie that apparently is revealed in the second or third movie, though, which I will mention in the spoiler spot.
I think I know exactly the bit of info that you're talking about, but I don't know the answer because I didn't look it up. But I was curious about it.
Tight.
I think I know too, and I did look it up.
What was the critical response to this movie, Noah?
Well, so I found out how Rotten Tomatoes works recently.
Yeah.
So this movie got a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is distinctly more than its average on everything else. And I learned Rotten Tomatoes scores movies as you get the 90% just means 9 out of 10 people thought it was good. That does not mean that they all rated it a 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
So as long as they rate it no, I didn't.
I also
as long as they rate it
that.
above a 50%, it counts as a good.
Yeah, it's just like if they consider it good or bad.
Yeah, good or bad, rating aside. However, the general critical rating of this was what is it? Out of 9 reviews, it landed the 90%, and it got an average of 7.2 out of 10 from all the critics that reviewed it, which is still pretty good. IMDb lands us at a 6.2, Metacritic at 64, and Letterboxd at 3.2 out of 5. So,
Okay.
I think that, honestly, I think it's a pretty reasonable spot for it to be landing.
Yeah.
The people that hate found footage are going to rate it really low. The people who really liked it, as opposed to other found footage movies, are going to rate it higher. The fact that it's sitting around 65, it's a pretty reasonable spot to have it sit at.
Yeah.
You know?
I think so. Yeah.
I think that's just a little bit lower than what our podcast average is for it anyway.
Yeah.
So I'll take it. Why not? You know?
Yeah.
Now this is probably something that we should have put at the very front of the episode, just in case you were thinking, I'm going to watch this movie after they do the spoiler-free review. The primary trigger warning for this movie, that is, all trigger warnings are important, but some of them are important. And this epilepsy warning, I think, is the most important trigger warning we've given to date.
Yeah.
Because,
Oh, yeah.
man, there's a lot of flashing lights in this movie. I
lot of
100% did
strobe
not remember that.
Yeah.
Especially right at the front end.
Yeah, right in the beginning of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then
also later.
all throughout the last like half of the movie, there's a lot of flashing lights. So this is a tread carefully at best, avoid, or tread carefully at worst, avoid at best kind of situation if this is a serious problem for you.
Yeah, definitely.
But beyond that, I put down clowns and demonic imagery.
Yeah, fuck those clowns, man.
Man,
Yeah,
I
those
love that
clowns.
clown.
That was some fun
That
stuff.
clown was the thing that that I'll get into this in a little bit.
Yeah. So clowns, demonic
Yep.
Um
Demonic enemas.
Put the demon up your butthole.
Do not put the demon up your butthole.
Are there other
I think
things?
that might be it. I mean
the
Paul's a little
cameraman's
pervy.
pervasive horniness might be
Yeah.
a
That
bit
is
of an
weird.
issue because of the way that
But
he
that's
talks
more-
about women. It bothered me a lot.
It is
So-
annoying.
Mhm.
I guess that's not even that important. I'll talk about that when we get to spoilers.
Okay.
He wasn't as bad and pervy as the bad and pervy character in Houses October Built, your favorite found footage film.
Okay, maybe I should have told you the big caveat on me saying it was the best found footage movie I had seen is that, like, I think that all found footage movies suck. So for it to be the best is a very low bar.
So
Do you
here's
think-
a question.
Do you think this one is better?
Yeah,
Yes.
that.
You
Okay,
Yes, this
okay.
one's
Better?
definitely a lot better than that one.
Okay.
now I see you rolling
could
your
have
eyes.
said
Is
that
that you
earlier.
saying this to just shut us up, or is this you being like, even with your memory of the movie, that you're like, that was a good found footage movie? This
Well,
one's
this one
still
has
better.
like the better produced documentary segments, which makes it more interesting to watch on the front end. Whereas the other
Okay.
one was just shitty throughout. So
No, it
You know what? I get
definitely
that.
has the benefit of the documentary setup to kind of give you an overview of what you're about to be watching.
yeah.
Whereas, like, a lot of found footage stuff, like, it's no shade to Blair Witch, but a lot of shade to Blair Witch.
Oh,
is
all
like,
shade to Blair Witch. It's not fun
It's
to
like-
watch.
it's hard to figure out what exactly the point is and what's going on at first because it's a
Yeah.
lot of talking to locals who don't really want to talk to the kids.
Mhm.
So in this one, it's
And that's
like,
the first 10 minutes.
it's rough.
Our
But
first 10 minutes had Mustache Man,
Mustache
who was an
Man,
authority.
who reminded me very much of that one judge from Forged in Fire.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Mhm.
what's his name? David.
David Baker.
David Baker. Yeah. Yep. Anyway, so
if you know,
are we gonna
you know.
do Emma's scary rating?
Yeah, I was gonna say, Emma, how scary was this movie?
You know, I do a lot of goofs in this segment. I do a lot of fun times, joking around, giving things 10 out of 10 scary that aren't 10 out of 10 scary. Spoiler alert.
What?
Kind of,
But we're getting
kind of been a
serious now,
meme.
huh?
it's kind of been a meme. I think the highest rating, I think I gave a movie like an 11 out of 10 scary once, as a joke. I don't remember what movie it was, but like for real, this is the scariest movie we've done so far. And so I've got to give this one a 12 out of 10.
Whoa. Did it actually?
It actually is legitimately scary. There are a lot of creepy parts. There's a part where they take the red door TikTok trend, and they make it scary.
It was scary enough before, really.
Yeah. And
I had the same thought about that TikTok trend, though.
yeah.
Did one of us say something about it?
I did.
I've never talked about it.
Okay.
I posted in like our Discord.
Oh, okay. I was like, I knew that I like had a reason to be thinking. You crept into my mind holes.
Hell yeah, I did. And there's a lot of times where you think something's gonna happen and then it doesn't. And so you're kind of on edge a lot. And so
And then
I think it's a very effective horror movie.
There's the one time where you know something's gonna happen, and you think to yourself, but maybe it won't happen, but it does happen.
But then it does happen, yeah. So yeah, a more serious Emma Scary rating corner, but it's a scary movie, so it deserves
This was
my
the Emma Scary
serious
corner that
attention.
sits down with a brandy and a pipe at the side of a big fireplace to tell us about the scary movie.
In a
In a
fancy
robe.
jacket.
It's like
comfy
I sit
robe.
down like next to a fireplace in like a fancy robe, nice
Harpsichord
glass of
music.
brandy, harpsichord music, and I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
"Hello, everyone. I'm Emma, the actor who normally plays Emma for Emma Scary Corner."
And she says, heavy is the head that wears the Naruto headband.
Ugh, you can't just say that.
I know we joke around a lot on this show, but this time I'm really serious.
But this time I'm real serious. With that, I think like I don't think this is like the scariest movie ever to exist ever.
Mm-mm.
But
It's not Poltergeist.
but it's the scariest movie we've done and that I've seen. So, which is why I give it the 12 out of 10.
Okay.
But with that said, Noah, you want to give us that spoilery summary?
I would love to. The rest of the movie is just explaining what happened in the first 5 minutes of this movie. You learn a little bit about the history of the Abaddon Hotel. There was like allegedly cult activity and devil worship on site. And you also learn that Alex was aware of the unsavory reputation. Alex is, I'm pretty sure he's like, I
Kind
don't
of in
think he's
charge.
the CEO in name, but I think he's like the CEO of the company, you know?
He
seems to be
is.
in charge.
No, he is definitely.
Oh, okay. So he's the CEO of Hell House LLC, and then everyone else kind of works for him more, which does seem actually to make people unhappy because this definitely feels like something that Five Friends did, and then they became incorporated, and there became like this hierarchy of people, and I do get the vibe that rubs a lot of people the wrong way.
yeah.
Anyway, he has kept all of the unsavory bits about this hotel hidden from the rest of the Hell House crew. So we primarily watched this whole movie through the point of view of Paul, who, as we have talked, is just a kind of a sleazy dude, but he is the big tech guru who runs all of the technical aspects of the show alongside Tony. As time passes, Paul and Sarah, who is dating Alex, they have several interactions with spirits and a lot of concerning occurrences that happen throughout the hotel, which are generally brushed off by Alex and the number 2 guy, Mac. Through various clues over the course of the movie, you kind of pick up that the company is really super tight on money. Tony makes some offhanded comment about, yeah, Alex told us we can't buy moving dummies this year, but don't worry, we're going to make everything pretty scary by the time this is done. And along with Alex constantly talking about how he wants to make sure that cameras are up so everything is documented, and how they really don't want to talk about what happened in Queens last year, you kind of get the vibe that we don't really know what happened, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say a big lawsuit might have been involved, because coming into this, they have no money. This is the big secret that Alex was talking to Mac about, and the reason they got Tony to stay when he tries to leave at the end of the movie is that the company's flat broke. They need this to work so that they can actually do it again, ever again.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
That's a helpful bit of... I don't know why they had to keep that like such a big secret.
I think it's
and
because
not reveal it in this movie.
I think they might have had something else in mind as a reveal.
They actually didn't.
They did not?
Mm-mm,
Are you
no,
sure?
All three of these scripts were written very close together. The guy who wrote the story had a vision of what he wanted the trilogy to be right from the get-go.
Wow, because it really feels like maybe there was another like idea for what the secret was, that like maybe he was in on the whole cult activity thing.
Yeah.
I don't think that was ever... I personally never saw that as the thing that it was like we were supposed to read into from that. I always thought of it more as... Because that didn't really fully make sense to me. There's no reason Tony would have stayed if that was the secret that he was told.
Well, maybe it was something, even if you leave, you'll die kind of thing, or you'll only live if you stay kind of thing. That was like, that's the only things that like I thought of. And then the whole like, I was on some forums last night trying to figure out different things, like what Sarah said backwards in one of the scenes, etc. And one that I found was like a lot of people were pissed at the fact that it was just a money thing. There's one guy who's like, and I quote, "This reveal blows." So
that reveal does kind of blow.
It does blow a little. The cool thing that I figured out, or that I learned that is from the second movie that does tie into this, is they actually aren't allowed to be here either. They don't have permission to be in this hotel.
Oh.
Yeah, they did not get permission beforehand. They're squatting for free. This is very much a last-ditch effort, way worse than is implied by the all our money is tied up in this venture type of statement made in this movie.
Yeah.
Which I think does makes it a little bit better. But it also...
That's a legally, very risky, very sketchy kind of move, since they're an LLC. That means that, like...
And documenting everything.
Yeah, all their stuff is actually,
and they've been advertising it.
Stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's
like literally they made a commercial, didn't they?
They were.
Yeah,
it was a very funny commercial out of nowhere here. But I actually have more followers on Twitter than the guy who wrote the Hell House LLC movies.
Wow, Nina flexing.
Not to flex or anything.
Not to flex or anything.
Wow.
I just thought
you should make a movie.
I should. Or I should use my clout to message him and ask him if there really wasn't any other ideas.
You should.
There is a director's cut for this movie that adds 8 whole minutes of footage, though.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah. A lot of it is with the success of the movie, he was able to pay for, continuing the spoilers, the scene where the devil appears in the basement. He was actually able to do the scene he wanted to do, where a portal opens up underneath their scare actress, and... They couldn't afford it, though. They didn't have any money. This was a super low budget movie that I couldn't find the exact number on. But with the success of the movie, he was able to edit up a director's cut where you get to add in that stuff.
Oh,
apparently the behind the scenes stuff is amazing too and very worth the buy. So catch me getting that sometime.
So I interrupted you because of the reveal secret thing, but do you want to finish up the review or the spoil summary?
So one of the things that ends up happening to Paul is he wakes up one night and the first thing he does is turn the camera on, which is weird because I kind of thought he was just kind of going to take a whiz. So he's just like, hey, camera time. But then he gets jumped by this girl and vanishes for like 2 full days. And when he reappears, it's just to scare the shit out of Mac and Tony. And he's totally unresponsive for every other scene that we see him in for the rest of the movie. He's just no thoughts, head empty, sitting down against the wall. Or laying in bed. So obviously we know something's up here, but everyone decides to move on with the plan anyway because money. So they open up. Opening night happens. Everything seems to be going okay until their clown Joey runs out of the basement because something super creepy happened down there. And people are getting sucked into the walls. Apparently, that's something else that we got to miss out on because they didn't have enough money. People being literally half in the walls.
Oh.
Cool little things like that. But yeah, we finally get to see the big thing where literally every member of this the crew gets killed by something. There's hooded people and demony dudes. And Paul himself definitely isn't doing anyone any favors because he pops into action now, of course. But yeah, movie ends up ending with Sarah saying, hey, I need to take a break from this interview. I have a hotel room. Meet me in 2C. We can talk more later. And she ends up convincing the documentary crew to break into the Abaddon Hotel to get some footage firsthand of what everything is like in there. They arrive, poke around, and they realize room 2C is a room in the Abaddon, not in the hotel that they were interviewing her at. So they pop in, they see Sarah in there, and they're like, hey, are you okay? She turns around, her face is all bloody. Seconds before we enter the room, we get to see the shot of her trying to escape from the incident and getting attacked by Paul and maybe not killed, but definitely captured by the spirits of the house. And let's see. Yeah, so she was clearly just trying to lure more people into the house. And that's how we end. We end with the documentary people getting a phone call from their studio guy, Mitchell, who wants to warn them about that. And the studio person being like, oh my gosh, Mitchell's calling. I'll talk to him later. He's never going to believe what we're seeing in here. And that's it. Now, that's the movie literally just hard ends with the camera being dropped on the floor and the people being taken. Now, my big thing here, and let me see how y'all feel about this. If this movie had ended with no more footage, nothing else, just a card that said, after Diane and whoever the camera guy was,
Mike or some shit.
Mike, yeah. After they didn't appear or they didn't return to the studio for X number of hours, Mitchell called the police and reported them missing. They examined the house, but couldn't find any sign of them outside of the camera. You know, like
it was
something like that.
Sorely missing just that card.
Just a tie up to the end of this documentary that's like, and we still don't know what happened. Instead of a hard cut, I think could have ended the documentary feel a little bit better.
I think it would have come across extremely hokey, though.
It would have.
It comes across pretty hokey on its freaking own. And it does leave, like, for all the other, like, how did they get the footage is explained as Sarah personally going and doing this kind of cleanup job. Where then to lure more people in, she does drop it off. It's like, well, where did they get this last tape that is in the documentary and is actually the first footage that we see in the beginning of the movie?
What?
Yeah, her Diane going up to the Hell House is the first footage we see in the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't remember.
I remember really like being annoyed with those scenes in the beginning where it was showing her, because you could hear the ambient sounds of what was around them and them like messing with doors and windows and stuff, but like you couldn't hear what she was saying.
Yeah.
And I was really annoyed because I was like, damn, the production of like their microphones shit, because I can't even hear her.
The
this
subtitles
is a weird
were way
design
off,
choice, like blah, 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 blah. But then at the end of the movie, I understood, because obviously it's them cycling back and they didn't want you to hear like what they were saying or whatever. But yeah.
Nah. Let's see. I wanted to briefly mention, like I was talking about the one scare that I noticed was when the camera is doing its full walk through the haunt. Like we get to see each different haunt. This is like the like coolest part of the movie to me, is where they pick up all of this so-called like different parts of the found footage and they cut all of everyone's different footage together to put together one continuous walk through the scare house.
Yeah.
There's a shot where they're walking from the kitchen towards the basement. It's the last like part before they hit the basement, and they
through the dining room.
Pan past the doll in the dining room, and Paul is sitting right by the door to the basement. And then it casually comes back around later and he's gone. And I was like, is that freaking Paul? And Noah's like, Paul's not in this scene. And then we skipped back and now that was definitely him. No attention was called to him and it was very peripheral. But if you like, I was like, oh crap.
And that's honestly the thing I liked the most about this movie. The first time that clown did a creepy thing, I was looking for it in the background of every single scene. Because I'm like, okay, so they're already queuing us in with just weird stuff in the background. The scraggly haired girl, which I guess was supposed to be Sarah, just like standing there being weird in the red lit doorway. I don't know if that was
that was
Sarah.
that was the little girl that disappeared.
Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure because since Paul addressed her as Sarah, I'm like, well, that doesn't sound right, but okay, whatever.
That
No,
doesn't seem like
'cause-
her.
Okay.
He just thought it was her because she's the only girl that's supposed to be there. But
Right. Cool.
no,
That's,
and like the lore of the house, it was
Mhm.
like a mother and a daughter went missing.
I did forget that by the time we got to the
I don't-
part where Paul got taken. I was like, who's this
that
chick?
would have
Where'd
been the
she
mother
come
then.
from? Yeah,
because
that was
the
definitely
daughter
the
was
mother.
definitely the one that was being weird in the dining room when the clock struck,
Yeah.
3 a.m. probably.
Yeah.
And suddenly the table was made and the girl was there and she's just like,
There were so many scares that were like, blink and you'll miss him kind of things, which I didn't hate.
Mhm.
Like,
It's a very rewatchable movie. I enjoyed it
Oh, I bet it is.
very much the second time. The first time I watched this, I had to pause. I had to pause once. And you know how it is when you pause a movie because it's too tense and you're a lot more okay with making other pauses to the movie because it's like, well, I mean, this is the tension built back up again pretty high and I just want to take a second. You know what I mean?
What
I
part
never
did you have to pause
paused.
on?
when Paul was under the covers,
Yeah, I paused when he was under the
Oh, yeah.
covers.
I
That was a
loved
creepy
that.
part.
That is the most terrified I've been in a horror movie maybe ever. Is like you feel, because this is the best use of found footage too, is you feel like you're under the covers and you know she's out there.
It's Paul's
Yeah.
breathing.
Uh-huh.
Paul's breathing is what did it for me. The frantic gasping.
Yeah.
Good acting.
There's a lot of stuff like that that really made this whole thing come together for me.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Yeah,
need the
when-
like, yeah, no, go ahead.
When he was under the covers, me and Stacy were like joking around because we were freaked out, you know, as you do.
Right.
And we were just like, he's under the covers. You can't get him. You can't get him. He's under the covers. He's safe. That's the safe zone. And then he like started to peek again. We're like, no, don't look. Like, she can get you then. Don't look. And
He should have listened because that's
Yeah.
what happened.
and then Stacy's like, they're not going to do it right. She's not going to be right there. I'm like, they're absolutely going to do it. And
That's
then
like-
they pull off the covers and she's right fucking there.
I jumped at that
Stacy
one this
freaked
time
out.
around. I knew
He
it was
did.
coming and I still
was
jumped
like,
a little
did
bit.
you seriously just jump or was that a goof? And he didn't answer, but
I did
now know.
answer. I'm like, no, I did jump.
Oh, I didn't know.
Nina wasn't paying attention to me.
No, I was watching the movie.
So I actually have a super cool bit of trivia about this movie.
Okay.
Do you want to know who played the Abaddon Hotel?
Was it the Abaddon Hotel's mom?
It-
What do you mean? Who played the Abaddon Hotel?
The building that played
the building, because they searched for 2 years to find a building that suited what they needed.
One
They
that was
searched
dumpy
abandoned.
enough.
Yeah, they were looking at abandoned buildings exclusively because they're like, well, the script calls for an abandoned building. Let's find an abandoned building. Makes sense. However,
Yeah.
they couldn't find anything that worked, and they couldn't find anything in what is it, Rockview,
it. Something.
Rockland,
Land.
Rockland County. They
Land
couldn't
of
find
rocks.
anything in the area that they were actually going to be putting the movie in, but they ended up finding the Waldorf Estate of Fear in Layton, Pennsylvania, a haunted house already,
Oh.
and they used that. The place is run by Angie Moyer, who also ended up serving as the film's set designer because, I mean, they were already in
She
her haunted
killed
house.
it.
Oh.
Yeah. So honestly, first off, that definitely helped cut costs. Going into a haunted house that already
Oh,
was a haunted
definitely.
house,
Yeah.
there's no way that didn't help them.
Yeah.
She probably gave a lot of insight because I don't know if the director and writer had worked on any haunts before, but I'm sure she was helpful in like the layout, how to properly lay out how the house would work as a haunt, like how people would, the like directions people would have to walk and stuff and where they would
Yeah.
set things up.
Oh, totally.
I really enjoyed just learning that little thing, flipping through the wiki page. I looked it up. It's only like 5 hours away from me. So
Oh.
Road trip.
road trip.
Hey.
Exactly. I guess they're open on the weekends just in general.
That's kind of weird.
I wonder like how much traffic they get these
I don't know.
days.
You can book tickets. Like, this is a ticket thing. You don't just get to show up and go. You pay for a ticket.
Oh.
Well, I mean, like, you have to
Well,
pay to get into
obviously
haunted
you'd pay
houses.
for it, but
But, like, yeah, you can schedule. So, I don't
Podcast
know.
field trip.
I'm thinking podcast field trip.
I would be down for that. I do
We
want
try-
to look at
we have to
reviews
try
first
and
though, because
record
I've
a
never done a haunt
podcast.
before.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I've never done a haunt before, and I'm
Neither have I.
terrified.
But every time
I did a couple at college, but
See- Were
there
one was
ones-
like a school sponsored one, like on like the mall. Nina, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And it was just not very great. But another one was like an actual haunted house, like
Yeah, I knew there was one nearby, but I never went
yeah.
to any of them.
Yeah. All my friends put me at the front for both of them.
Oh,
And being me, like, I was just like, okay, I can't get scared because then my friends will get what they want, which is me being scared. So I have to be like stone-faced and jokey the entire time. And so that's what so it probably wasn't very fun for the staff because I was just joking around with them the entire time. But
From what I've learned about scare actors, they don't mind it when you're chill and jokey with them.
as long as you're not obstinate,
As
like
long, yeah.
you look them in the face, you're not scary at all, and then try and push them out of your way. They hate that.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't
But,
do
I
that.
imagine they would.
I was just like, oh, hi, cool. Are we supposed to go like this way? I can't find like the
Nah,
exit.
yeah, no. From what I've
Bad.
heard, scare actors actually kind of are totally 100% down with that.
Total
Okay,
detour.
Cool.
But on topic, if you're interested in haunted houses and like the scare workers and all the like the behind the scenes kind of stuff and things like that, watch Haunters. It's on Netflix, I believe. It might be on Shudder. But it's just a documentary about haunted houses.
That's
And because
Haunters
the movie ended up
plural,
Huh?
not Haunter singular, which is a different movie.
Haunters plural, yes.
Yeah.
The movie the documentary ended up taking like 2 or 3 years longer than they anticipated to come out. So they were able to come back around to some of the other haunts multiple years later and
Huh.
re-interview everybody. So they got to have a really enjoyable, like, hey, here they are now.
That's
If you
cool.
ever have been interested in Mckamey Manor,
Oh, yeah,
And
that's
that,
what I
like-
was about to bring up, Mckamey
yeah,
Manor.
no, that dead psychopath that runs the place.
Mhm.
If you're
Oh.
ever interested in that, this gives you a really nice
So,
talk about the dude without picking sides one way or another. But I also, in an interview with the director, he said, "Yeah, I mean, he's a little out there," which is I
Wait,
think the
who-
kindest
who
way.
is this guy?
I will tell you because I'm going to tell the audience.
Yeah.
That's something that I was going to bring up anyway, given
Mhm.
this movie. Because when I was watching the intro sequence talking about like haunted house gone bad, my immediate thought jumped to Mckamey Manor, which is a haunted house in Tennessee that began as like this guy just kind of hiring teenagers to be haunt actors in his house, if I remember correctly. And then it slowly started escalating until it got this reputation as this guy who's like, you sign a contract before you go in.
Which, let me stop this real quick. There are extreme haunts. They
Mhm.
exist.
Yes,
There's
they're
Blackout.
run well.
Yeah, Blackout is a big one, and a couple other things.
You do
Was
get a
it
safe
Rob
word for
McKamey?
those. Huh?
Rob McKamey, I think, is the guy for Mckamey Manor.
Yeah, I don't remember. But yeah.
He thinks those are disgusting because, like, if you're at Blackout, naked people could run at you and they're swearing at you, and that's just obscene.
This guy, on the other hand, there have been all sorts of rumors of like him like pulling teeth, I think was one that I heard. The most scares you have a rule where you're
The
not allowed
cuss
to
words are
touch the
too much.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot of like rumors about, I think waterboarding was another one that I heard.
Yeah. I don't think he ever actually pulled teeth. I think it was like a rumor that was spread
Mhm,
around.
that's exactly.
But he did waterboard people. He did lock people in boxes.
Mhm.
Holy fuck.
Jeez.
Yeah, no.
Mhm.
If you went through the place with the lights on, it's not a scary place. It's kind of just weird and dirty looking. But he
Uh-huh.
had this whole maze built up that he would push people through, and they'd like go through shock like
Mhm.
during the event, and they couldn't tap
And
out.
he'd say you can tap out. He'd say you can have a safe word for this, and then he would ignore their safe
Yeah.
words.
Oh,
So-
Oh, fuck that.
that's shitty.
Yeah, there are good haunts out there.
Mhm.
Mckamey Manor is not one of them.
Don't even.
If you want to go to a full contact haunt where they can push you around and hurt you a little bit, go to one of the ones that's run correctly. And you might get swore at,
Oh no!
But
that you might
they're
see
also,
a naked.
yeah, you might see some dong swinging around, but you're not going to be scarred and have like actual like
PTSD.
trauma and PTSD like you will from Mckamey Manor.
Or from
Okay.
Hell House LLC to bring real people's trauma back around to this movie that we just watched.
Well, in fairness, this one is a bit of an extreme situation.
It is, yeah.
That's kind of what like the Houses October built is about, is them trying to like get to this extreme haunt place to check it out.
Mhm.
And then they get the most
yeah.
extreme scare of all, getting murdered.
Yeah. Getting murdered.
Spoilers for Houses October Bill.
See,
Which they retcon in the next one, where they're no
recently-
longer murdered.
recently Noah watched Hellfest without me, and the whole like premise of Hellfest that made me want to watch the movie is basically the same premise as Hell House LLC, except that I think something in the trailer
I
for
wouldn't say it's even remotely
or
the same
similar.
premise.
It's just like people go somewhere specifically to get scared, and then deaths end up happening. Which, like, with Hellfest, something that I saw in the trailer was like a lot more people like not realizing that things were real. That didn't last very long in Hell House. There was a period of people being like, that's weird. I wonder if that's part of the show. That lasted very little. It immediately devolved into, oh god, this is definitely not part of the show. But the vibe I got from Hellfest is that period of, oh, haha, is this maybe part of the show, lasted longer.
I thought you wouldn't want to watch it because it's a slasher, but
I thought I had expressed that I wanted to see it, but
Sorry.
I'll watch it at some point. It's no big deal. I saw it. This is totally off, out of pocket, and I'm gonna call Noah out. I was at work and I saw the post in the server that was like, "All right, we're gonna watch Hell House LLC," and I was like,
Hellfest.
"Hellfest,
Oh, yeah.
Hellfest," and I was like, excuse me." I immediately turned to Johnny and I was like, "My husband, sucks." But yeah, no, I don't mind. I'll watch it at some point. It's been on
watched
my
it with
list for a
Brian. It
while.
was a really good time. I took notes if we ever end up covering it.
I hope we do.
But anyway, back to this movie. Back to this movie. I'm trying to remember if I had any like.
Wait, before we come back to this
heavy
movie,
points. Yes.
if we're all vaccinated by Halloween, we should totally all meet up and go to like a haunted house.
Done deal.
We should
That'd
try
be
to
so
record
fun.
a podcast inside the haunted house while we're
Inside
walking
the haunted
through.
house.
Okay,
for
would
an
you
hour
stop
and a half.
screaming at me, please? So we're
trying to
Obsession, the horror
record.
movie podcast where we talk about haunted
With the
houses who are rude
microphone
as hell, apparently.
In a clown's face, and you're like, "Do you have anything to add?"
Sinister honking.
We're not
Trying
going
to take notes on the way through, like, oh man, can you turn the lights on for me for a second? I can't see my
Hold
notebook.
on, I can't. I dropped. Nobody move. I dropped my pen.
Creepy little girl in the cage, do you have it? Fuck. Okay, we can go back to the movie now.
No, I would love to do that. I
We
should
are
freaking
so
hope
on
I'm
topic this
vaccinated by
episode.
then.
Let's see. I don't have any other heavy points that I want to make sure that I definitely. Oh, well, I mean, I did want to point out that my thing that I like about this movie is that I'm assuming some of the conversation has to be ad-libbed because that's a pretty heavy staple of the found footage genre. But if it's not, the conversations all felt really clean and natural. They didn't feel like too heavy filler. And I think a lot of that is because we didn't have to create a storyline. We already knew where it ended. We were just getting there. So we didn't have to have conversations that fill in the day.
Yeah.
We just had to have conversations that are, here are points that happened because someone cherry picked the footage for a documentary about all the bad things that happened and here's what led up to it.
Yeah.
The conversation all felt really good though, in my opinion.
That's one thing I liked about this movie, coming off of another found footage movie that I'll allow to go unnamed. Is that
Jeff,
in
do
the
you know
other
what?
movie? Jeff, do you know what movie I'm talking about?
It was, I'm going to take a guess here. It's
Poltergeist.
probably the Blair Witch Project, right?
Yeah, totally. And the other movie, like, especially at the beginning, because they were trying to do this whole camaraderie, like, bar scene sort of deal. And it was just very, like, stiff and awkward. And the conversation felt, like, very forced and weird. And it felt that way at, like, a variety of different parts throughout. But here, like in Hell House, it felt like a hell of a lot more natural.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the bar scene in Hell House where they're talking about their guy. The only Albany joke I made in the whole thing, where they're talking about their guy who's just like, they had to play Lucifer. He's just like, hey, I'm the devil over here. Hey.
That was so great.
Can't get the gabagool in hell.
That was my favorite joke in the movie because it sounded like Jeff had been over earlier that day to do some stuff with Noah, and it straight up sounded like a joke you guys would have made.
Oh, totally.
It was so funny. They were like, "You remember that Lucifer? I had to fire him," and the other guy's like, "What? I still keep in touch with that guy."
I love that. Everyone's mad at Paul. They're like, "Why are you still hang out with him?" He's like, "He was a cool dude. I talk to him every
Alex
now
is
and
like,
then."
"You buy drugs from him, don't you?" It felt
I
like a
would buy
good
drugs.
friendship.
Given the chance, I would buy drugs from Bronx Satan.
Yeah, I would also buy drugs from Bronx Satan. He seems like a cool dude.
But that's one thing that I liked near the end of the movie as well, was when Diane's walking through the like haunt and it cuts to like footage we've seen before.
Oh yeah, where you see the wrecked scene and then it cuts to everyone joking about Bronx Satan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It does kind of harken back. It's not sad so much as it is like it's a mixture of emotions that you get.
It's just like fun little echoes of the good moments that happened here, and you know all the bad things that just happened.
Yeah.
It's neat.
Kind of like a reverse of The Shining.
Yeah. It's the Shining, except instead of a naked leper lady and two creepy sisters, it's some dudes drinking beer and
And a
talking about the
really
good old days back in
racist waiter.
Queens. Yeah. I loved when they were walking through the house the first time. They were like, "Yeah, we can have like a chef in here." He's like, clang, clang, clang. "Hey, what do you want?"
Yeah, you could tell that at least one of those people is like have like worked as a waiter because of the way that they had their opinion about line cooks.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, "Hey, get out of my kitchen! What do you want, waiters?"
Man, the energy they brought through the entire walk through the house. And it was like, we'll have a guy here. He's just like, "Hey, slinging drinks and hey, clang, 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 hey, what are you getting?" It was. I loved it.
Oh, it was very
great.
good. It did it did worlds for making me relate to the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Except for Tony, I couldn't get a read on Tony. Tony was a nobody character the whole movie.
Yeah, he was. Did any of you think at the beginning of the movie that what was the name of the guy who was running it?
Alex.
Alex. I thought Alex and the other guy, kind of like the
Mac?
I don't want to say meaner guy, Mac. Yeah,
Mhm.
I
The
thought they
redhead,
were
yeah.
dating. I thought they were boyfriends.
Yeah, and I thought like Sarah and Paul were dating.
Yeah,
What?
That was
Yeah.
the vibes that I got from that opening car scene, was that like, yeah, Mac and Alex were a thing and then Sarah and Paul were a thing. But
Because I
Because
think
Mac and Alex were
Alex-
fighting constantly.
and Sarah's like, "Wow, it's getting passionate out there." But
Yeah,
that is
I
also
think
just very in character.
Alex said babe or something, and it seemed to have been directed at Mac because I think they were the ones talking. But I guess it could have been towards Sarah because in the movie Sarah and Alex are dating. But so for like half of the movie until it's explicitly stated that Alex and Sarah are together, I thought Alex and Mac were together.
Did you realize when Paul walks in on the room where neither of them are wearing pants and they're just vibing together? And it's like, oh,
I
they
think
must
it's
be a
when Paul's
thing.
like, "I
Yeah.
haven't boned in months, and Alex won't let me bone his girlfriend." Because
Yeah.
that's what
Because that's the
never-
opinion you should be going for if you want to have sex with someone, right? You talk to their partner and not to them.
it's like,
Yeah.
and Alex isn't
Uh-huh.
into Sharon.
The
you know?
implication that Sarah would sleep with Paul if only Alex would let her.
Yeah, like they've talked about it. And she was just like, you know, Paul, I just wish that Alex would let us fuck, but he just keeps saying no every time I ask him.
Also,
Paul has the
So
confidence
rude.
of a god.
the implication that Melissa or McKenna or whatever the other girl was actually was interested in Paul. She got worried when he didn't show
yeah.
up.
That was super sad. She's like, hey, where's Paul? I haven't seen him in a while. Like, they clearly had at least been talking.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was kind of odd because I didn't think it was likely that she would actually like Paul because he's just too horny on Maine.
No, that's actually super fair as well. However,
I mean, like,
However-
he
They
met
seem
her
to
and
get on
3 minutes
together.
later he was making jokes about wanting to see her boobs. Like,
Everyone was making jokes about wanting to see her boobs. Poor girl.
yeah, she shouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was
They
having a
shouldn't have
blast,
been
though.
like that. But
They shouldn't have
They
been
shouldn't
like
have
that.
been like that. She should have been able to set her own boundaries, but they
Yeah.
were constantly pushing her.
I just took sexual harassment training from work.
have you
Not
gotten
because
better
I
at it?
sexually harassed anybody. It was mandatory for the whole firm.
Mhm. Which
But-
means that someone else probably sexually harassed somebody, and they
Well,
were making.
it's like Women's Month.
Oh
because-
yeah.
Yeah, and so
Oh yeah. That makes sense.
I think that's probably why they did it. They haven't done it in past years, but
Mm.
they're trying to do better, which
Good for them.
I appreciate. So, so
Would
I
these
had
guys
this training,
pass?
and then I watched this movie like that same day, later at night. And so at that whole part, I'm like, this is sexual harassment
It is.
in the workplace.
Movie pauses and Emma walks in from the side of the screen.
Now, this may seem
is
funny,
a textbook
but-
case of sexual harassment.
Who can tell me what's wrong with this scene?
Yeah. It
Yeah.
flips over to a screen of me sitting by a fireplace and a nice chair with a nice robe and a glass
Brandy.
of brandy. And I'm like, hi, this is Emma, the actress who normally plays Emma from Emma's Scary Corner. This is sexual harassment in the workplace and not okay.
Hi, I'm Emma. You may remember me from such things as Emma's Scary Corner and the Casual Obsession Horror Podcast, the horror movie podcast where we talk about horror movies.
You have to say the whole thing like that, yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh my god. No, poor girl. Who was the one who played the like we've been expecting you actress at the front with the Karen cut? She seemed kind of cool.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. That's the
speaking
only
of
time we
people-
saw her was...
Speaking of people who played people, though, Joey, who played the clown.
Yeah.
So, you know their throwaway line in the middle of the movie where they're like, where'd you find this guy? After he pops his eye out of his
He
head and puts
says,
it back
oh, yeah.
At a
And
gas
it's like, oh, I
firstly-
found him at a gas station.
in. Yeah, firstly, obviously, he can do that in real life. That was not a trick. That's actually, he pops his eye out and holds it in his hand.
That's pretty weird.
Which the actor does not recommend you try.
I wasn't going to, but thanks.
No, neither was I. But that line about where'd you get him? At a gas station. Was he working there or was he just there? I don't know. This is the only acting credit this man has.
Oh.
And
Oh,
I gotta
really?
be honest, I borderline feel like they just found him at the gas station.
Yeah,
He
that
did a good
sounds-
job of being like a weird gas station guy.
Yeah, he gave off this vibe of
That's
a guy who's
kinda,
like,
like,
I'm not a great
awkward.
actor, but I'm gonna sit here in a clown suit and be weird.
Yeah. And he did great at it.
He did.
He did
Yeah.
well for that, yeah.
He failed
Would
his one
recommend
job.
him for other acting opportunities in that exact role.
I don't. All he had to do though was give her unlock her before he ran away.
There
and
was
he
a
couldn't-
literal demon. Like, to be fair to him.
But he was the one that had the key.
But he sat there while she was freaking out, and the demon was right there. And then he's like, got up and bump, 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 bump,
See you
bump.
guys.
Like there was time.
Yeah.
Her screaming at the end
It was good.
of like, please, this isn't part of the show. Please, like, let me out. Like, all that stuff
Mm-hmm.
was really really good and really
Yeah.
heartbreaking. But also, like, some people were like, oh, wow, this is really believable. This is crazy. Ha ha ha. She's like, no, like, fucking.
That felt-
And
Her-
that
her
was
sitting
just
there saying-
real of like, if I were in that position, how would I convince like these audience members, like, no, this is actually real. I'm not just fucking with you. Please, like, get me out of here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think I would have to like, in order for it to really come across, I'd have to like not scream it. I'd have to like really calm down and like state it plainly. Like, but it would be so hard in that sort of situation where
yeah.
there are these ghost cultists.
You'd have to turn to someone and be like, hi, look, I'm really sorry, but I really need you to unlock these right now. This is not part of the show, and I think we all need to leave right now.
Also, what kind of janky, low budget shit are they running that they are using real handcuffs that
They're
lock her in
actually
position?
locking her
Like
there, yeah.
they
That was
actually
another
shackled her
thing.
to the ceiling.
That was the one
Yikes.
immersion breaking thing that a lot of people on the forums I was on last night were talking about, was how they
They
just
would
like
never, for a group as concerned with lawsuits as Alex is,
Yeah.
there's no way they would have actually locked their actress to a beam in the basement.
it's like what you do is you wrap some rope around her hands and then you just have her hold her hands up to where it
Yeah.
looks like she's tied to the beam. It's not that freaking hard.
No, it's not.
See, I mean, I was just thinking it would be like a pair of those like toy handcuffs that look kind of like realish, but they have that like tab on the side that you just pull on and it unlocks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
because you
like
kind of want you do
anything
want
that you
something
have
that's
an
actually
emergency
going to
release.
hold her arms up, so she doesn't have to just stand there with her arms up the whole night.
Yes, and she can move around in a better way. Yeah, something with emergency release that you don't need to count on something else for.
Yeah.
Because you don't do that.
Or at the least
Yeah.
like a carabiner or something. Like it's not that
Yeah.
hard.
No,
That
it's
was
not.
probably my favorite scene of the movie though. I think that was like
Oh, hands down.
I think it was really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that little like brief catch where you see her like mostly skinless upper torso just hanging down way low above the floor. That little quick shot of the basement. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think.
Oh, well, that is the scene that in the director's cut you would see more of that when she gets dragged, like sucked down into the hell portal or something. Which leads me to a thing that I did want to mention. I don't like all the digital cuts they did in this movie. Since they're filming on digital cameras, they had to do digital distortion to hide their cuts and do all kinds of stuff when they weren't doing long single shots.
Yeah.
Which
Mhm.
there were a lot of long single shots in this movie. Was very pleased with those personally.
Yeah.
But when they were in the chaos times, there were a lot of digitized moments, and I don't care for those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're a little much sometimes. They're a little even in 2015, they were a little hokey.
Mm-hmm.
Wish they hadn't done that in that kind of to that degree, you know.
Yeah.
But nothing else much on that. I just a thing that I wish that they had done differently, but there's not.
You don't really
There's
know
not a
how
way they
else
could've.
they could have.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I get that. I would like to talk about the clown.
Let's talk about the clown.
We should talk about
Holy
So-
shit, I love that clown.
They got a real creepy clown mask. They put it on a mannequin whose head doesn't turn. And they make
that's
a big
all that the
point about the
clown
fact
did.
of like, fuck, this mannequin's head doesn't turn. This is gonna ruin immersion. And they're like, nah, it'll be fine. And then obviously that clues you in as an audience member, that fucking mannequin's head is gonna turn. And
I really
It
love
does.
when they were talking about, oh, it's a shame that we're wasting this mask on a mannequin that won't move. Well, I love this mask. It's such a good mask. It's so scary.
yeah.
And then they're like,
And
well,
it
let's get a
is.
real person to put this mask on. And then they don't even give Joey that mask.
They
Yeah.
dress him up
Yeah.
in clown paint instead.
Yeah. What's the deal with that?
But
Maybe his head was too big.
Probably.
the clown shows up and like there are a few scenes where it's like sitting where it's supposed to be sitting and its head is just turned suddenly, and that's creepy. But then there are a few scenes like late at night where they find the clown just like standing like in a doorway or something, and it's real freak. The clown doesn't ever like actually do anything,
Mhm.
but its
He's just
presence is just fucking terrifying. And you think it's gonna do something because it's just very big and menacing and creepy. And I like that they had the restraint to like not have it just suddenly like run at somebody or something.
Mhm.
It just stayed as this very like menacing
I
thing.
think I had a couple moments during this movie where I thought to myself, what are the odds that the two men who were freaking out about this clown could fucking just take it if it started fighting them? Like, because it was Mac and Paul at one point, or Mac and Tony, I don't remember.
Tony, yeah.
And
Yeah.
they
Mac's
were
a
like,
big guy.
Mac's a big dude. I was like, Mac could take this clown if he needed to.
But it's a ghost clown.
It's a ghost
Yeah, no,
clown.
It
I
has
did not factor
supernatural
in-
powers.
The fact that it was a supernatural clown, which is the worst kind of clown. unlike alien clowns, which are mostly just kind of funny.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, Pennywise.
I thought you meant the
talking
killer
about the
clowns
entirety
from
of Killer
outer space.
Clowns.
Oh, no, that
I
too.
thought that's what you were
But
talking
after
about.
I said it, it occurred to me that Pennywise is technically an alien. So technically
Yeah.
he falls into the alien clown category.
I guess
Yeah.
so, but I think it's pretty
Spoilers
lame.
for it.
Yeah.
gosh.
Spoilers for all of Stephen King's work. It's either Native Americans or aliens.
The scariest two
Or
things of
both.
all.
Or both.
Alien Native Americans.
Alien Americans? Holy shit.
You know, people-
They're gonna call it. You're supposed. That's not the right words, dude.
You know, people like to make fun of H.P. Lovecraft for like his stories boil down to the tale of the dusky foreigner, and it's the scariest thing he's ever seen. Stephen King's not that much better.
He's not. He really isn't.
No.
Also any religious person is also probably the bad guy,
Oh,
which
sure.
is like,
I think he's cleaned that up in recent years, though.
yes, he has a
Well,
lot.
like
Did
every Stephen
find
King
religion.
Every
Maybe.
single Stephen
like he
King
did.
story is about a writer from New England who has a drinking problem, though. Like,
Yeah.
He owns his own problem.
there's too many
just doesn't know
consistent
what his
beats
other
in
problems are.
stories.
Anyway,
So there's this super handsome guy. He's from New England. He's a writer, but people don't take him
and
seriously.
his one flaw is that he doesn't know how to end his stories. But other than that, everyone loves his writing. Like everyone loves it. Anyway,
But Stephen King's not in this movie, even though it didn't end very well.
Stephen King was in it, chapter 2.
He's not in Health.
No, he
Hell
wasn't.
House.
Oh, in Hell House. Oh yeah, no, sorry. I didn't realize that you were talking about this movie because I didn't think it ended that poorly. I don't think it ended great, but it's one of
ended
those
fine.
movies where I don't know how it would have ended better. Sometimes you watch
Yeah.
a movie and you're like, okay,
The
but it's
clown
like
would come out in front of everyone and say, "Listen, this was all a dramatic reenactment of what happened." But
He would
it's
say,
still
"Hi,
wearing the
I'm the
mask, so
clown who
the
usually
mouth
plays
doesn't move
the
at all.
clown
He's
in
just
Hell
gesturing.
House." And what we've witnessed today is an awful lot of sexual harassment.
I think
I
that we
think-
all need to agree on who needs to get fired and who needs some training here because Melissa didn't deserve
The
that.
entire Hell House crew needs fired and trained.
I just think the ending could have been a lot better if they took some notes from Krampus and at the end, like as they drop the camera from like the cultists coming to kill them, like suddenly all of the like dead people and actors like appear from the edges of the camera and they're like, bah!
Oh, yeah.
I think that would have made it a 10 out of 10 ending.
Speaking of sexual harassment and characters acting in annoying ways, I can understand why Alex didn't like do anything when like Paul and Tony and Mac were saying like, oh god, there's shit going on, because they were constantly pranking each other. But when your
Yeah.
girlfriend is like crying and shaking and she's having like nightmares and sleepwalking and shit, at least let her go home.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real. Also, Stacy pointed this out to me, but when Sarah was like looking at the wall and muttering things, she was apparently muttering things that she later says in like the interview.
Oh.
Yeah, it's her last
Um,
line of the interview.
Yeah.
When I got
She's
to the door,
like,
the police were already there.
When I went to the door, the police were already there. I was just happy to be alive. They didn't say anything to me, just rushed me outside. That's what she is saying backwards when she's looking at the wall,
Oh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
which I think is super creepy. I love
That
that.
is creepy.
It's like the ghosts are like telling her what she needs to say later on
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
be convincing.
Yeah. Also, I think like the thing this movie does best is restraint. Because I also thought that the piano doll was gonna do something like really creepy or like
so
jump
glad it
and
did.
attack something like at some point, and it never does. Like at worst, it plays the piano, like a couple notes of the piano.
And you never
but-
see it do it.
And you never see it do it.
Mhm.
But the entire time I thought that thing was gonna like move or fucking do something. It
I'm
never
so glad
does,
none of the
but I
props
was
did
always
anything.
like
Yeah.
on edge when that was in a scene because I always expected it to.
Mhm.
I love that like kind of lesson that you can tell almost any other horror movie, that just because something is creepy doesn't mean that it has to kill someone.
If this was a Conjuring movie, we would have gotten a spin-off about the piano guy and the demon clown.
Yeah.
They would have
Yeah.
their own series,
totally.
and they would all suck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was funny because I was talking to my friend Heather, friend of the podcast.
Hi, Heather.
About how The Conjuring like really terrifies me, and like it's definitely the movie I'm most scared to watch.
The concept of
And
it, or
Why is that?
Oh, because you
I
have
don't-
not seen it yet.
I haven't seen it. No, I'm just
Alright.
like really scared to watch it. But she was talking about how she wants to watch the second Conjuring movie because of a character in it, and she linked me a clip,
Was it the
and I
Crooked
watched
Man?
the clip.
Or Valak the
was.
Nun.
It was the first one, yeah.
Okay.
And I watched the
It's a good
clip,
clip.
and I was like, maybe I shouldn't be scared of these movies.
No, you shouldn't. The
you
first
shouldn't
one
at
is
all.
definitively better than the
If
second one.
Insidious didn't scare you, The Conjuring won't scare you.
They're fundamentally very similar movies.
They've got the same
It's
actors.
very worth watching, though.
Very
Very
I
worth
think
watching. I liked
a
it
very
much more.
enjoyable
I
movie.
liked it much more than Insidious.
Yeah.
Like on every level.
Yeah.
it
And if you liked
works.
Hill House,
It's okay.
I think you'll.
I
I think
love Hill House.
it's okay compared to Hill House.
I would not anticipate being like scared by The Conjuring,
no.
but I would anticipate enjoying it a lot. It's got a
Okay.
lot of fun, tense moments. Speaking of tense moments, I love the tense tone this movie carried through the whole thing, where even when it was just like someone walked with the camera and turned to go down the hallway, and I was expecting to see something, and it was just like a half second of hallway walking, and then it cut to the next scene.
Yeah.
I was, every time the camera was in motion, I was worried I was going to see something.
The
scene-
the movie does a good job, like early on, of showing you that as the camera pans past things, you're going to see things.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
like it kind of sets you up to start looking for that. That's pretty well done. That's pretty cool.
I
Yeah.
liked the scene where they're testing the head-mounted cam and the strobes start going off, and every few shots there's another person there.
Yeah, Demon
Mhm.
Man's in the hallway, then he's gone, then he's back, then he's
Yeah.
gone.
And I liked that the documentary like crew. I liked that a lot. How a lot they utilize the documentary stuff to, if you miss the scare, you're not gonna miss the scare because we're gonna confirm your worst fear and show you what you missed. Which
Yeah.
like it could be bad, but since you're like watching it like it's a documentary, and they do it early on showing like the photographer's like captured image versus what was in the YouTube video.
I love that. The photographer's image where it's just like a picture of a staircase down, which had some bad energy to it. I loved that photo.
That has so much bad energy.
But then they circle the handprints, and I'm just like, thanks YouTube with your triangle Illuminati eye thumbnail. I did in fact notice the smear on the step.
No, that picture had bad imagery, and also I loved that the photographer was like, yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I did not go down those stairs. I stood off to the side and I pointed my camera and took
Yeah.
some shots.
He was like,
I am
fuck
not
that.
a moron. I'm not going down there.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that because he had enough courage to break into the house, but he wasn't stupid like Diane was, where Diane's like, I'm gonna go into room 2C. What could possibly go wrong?
She also really wanted to go into the basement.
She did, but her cameraman was smarter than her. He also said not to go into the room. The cameraman was just a smarter
He
guy.
did not want to be there. I bet
one-
if Mitchell had called him, he would have picked up the phone.
he
I bet
would
he
have.
would've.
Yeah.
Also, that's one thing I really wish they had done was have Mitchell call a couple more times.
Yeah.
Mhm. Like phone off the hook.
Because if I were him, that was one thing I was telling Noah. If they had kept the ending shot the same, but as the cameras dropped, we hear her phone ring again. I would have liked that. I would have liked more of Mitchell trying to reach out, because I'm not going to call my boss once and be like, it's probably fine. She just went back to the haunted hotel with someone who I know is already dead.
He may have been. I think it would make sense to be like, he called that once and she didn't pick up, or she like sent it to voicemail, and he realized what she was doing, and then he started trying to drive there or something.
Or call
Or
the
he called the
police,
other
which
guy.
is what I like, the idea
Yeah.
that Noah said.
Yeah.
There's options.
There's
Poor Mitchell.
options.
Poor Mitchell had to
Sure.
go through the freaking camera stuff.
Speaking of the basements, though, yeah, he had to put up with horny Paul, porn stash Paul. Out
I
here.
wonder how much like amateur like nonsense he had to put up with from Paul.
Too much. One thing I did love is not only did, for budget reasons, we never saw the events of the basement, but they never went back there. We never got to see the basement post-event
Yeah.
or anything like that. It was done. That was it. That's fine. I liked that. I liked how we never went back into the basement. We got to see almost everything else, but we never
Yeah.
went back to the basement.
I like that.
I liked that. Again, with the restraint and just like letting your imagination do a lot of the work for them.
Mhm.
Because like I've talked about this before. I haven't watched a lot of horror movies. Obviously, through this podcast, I've been watching more, but
You know,
like
one or two.
just through popular like media and mainstream media and stuff, you learn to pick up on certain like filmmaking cues of like, this is the thing you need to look out for, or like this is something that's going to be used later. And with that, like at the beginning of the movie, when they were showing the video of the people going through the like haunted house before they started trying to escape, they go through that bathroom scene, and there's like a mannequin there that's hanging, and like is hanging
Mhm.
basically. And I think someone like makes a comment of like, oh, I thought that was like a real person for a sec, and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And then they keep moving. And in my brain, I was like, that's totally going to actually be a real person later.
Nina asked me the same thing. She was like, wait, was that actually a person?
Yeah, I had the same
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah. And I think it did such a great job with like that sort of stuff of like dropping like hints or all these things of like, this could potentially happen. And then like having your mind go down that route, but then not actually doing that thing. I just thought that was done really well.
Yeah, and then the only thing that actually happened is when they have you in a position where you 100% know what's going to happen when Paul wakes up and that woman's in his bedroom. You're like, there's no way he's getting out of this. What are his options here? And he chooses to hide. And I really loved how that played out, because there wasn't a lot of options there, and it really helps you feel helpless, because it's not like he can walk past her. We don't know how strong she is. I'm glad they didn't have him fight her. I'm really glad they just had him kind of like
Get hit.
Mm-hmm. Freeze up, which I think is a really reasonable human response in that situation. I think that's what I would have done, which is why it was so scary.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's hella reasonable too, considering like if that was the first like paranormal experience he'd had there, and I think it'd be rational for him to be like, oh, some weird creepy lady just like got into the house and is squatting here, like what the fuck are you doing here, and maybe engage with it a bit more. But because he had seen so many other like paranormal shit,
Yeah.
just his like panic response of like freeze up and try to hide under the covers makes so much more sense.
Absolutely.
I'm surprised no one woke up, though, because they woke up a lot of other times, which led to one of my favorite lines of everyone being in the hallway together being like, you hear that? I heard that. It sounded like a scream. You heard that too? And Alex just being like, no, I didn't. No. Oh, so we all just woke up at the same time. It's like, you woke me up.
Yeah. I mean, but with those sorts of situations, there was literally like noises coming from downstairs or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Well, this was
And
Paul
that scene-
screaming in his bedroom.
did he scream? I don't remember him like
Real
screaming.
briefly, but he did.
Yeah. But yeah, I liked it. It was good. It's good. Do we have a Noah's Notes corner?
We sure do.
Oh boy.
Hey Jeff,
So-
could you play the theme song?
For the theme music on this one, I was thinking the title of this movie, actually reminded me of a certain rapper, LLC James, or Ladies Love Cool James, or LL Cool J as he's known.
Okay.
I'm not going to embarrass myself by rapping. I'm going to read your notes. Mama said read your notes. You see where it's going?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I see.
Yeah. I
All
do
right.
have a question. So for the audience, like, we're on a video call together, and every time, like, this has never been a planned segment of, like, me asking Jeff to do a theme song. Like, it just happened of one time I asked him to do a theme song, and ever since now I ask him to do a theme song. Every single fucking time, he gets so excited, he, like, sits up in his chair a bit more, and he's like, so I was thinking for this one. Is it just improv every time?
I have a
or do
backlog
you, like,
prepared already.
you do? Okay,
I think
great.
about these at work.
That's exactly what I was wondering.
Because I don't have anything else to do while I'm blasting
Because
paint
just
and rust
based on
off
your
of
body
things.
language, I always feel like you're so prepared for me to ask
Oh, absolutely, I'm ready. I have like on a given movie going into it, I have like 4 to pick from at a time, and I have to like just decide what I'm gonna use for this particular one.
Okay.
This was
Beautiful.
inspired.
That was a good one.
This one was inspired, actually. This is not one of the ones that I had previously. I just saw the title had LLC in it, and I was like, haha, like LL Cool
LL
J.
Cool J.
You know, like any sane thinking person does.
Like
I love the mental
LLCJ.
image of it's like 11:30 at night, and Becca's just like, Jeff, please go to sleep, and he's scribbling in a notebook, and he's like, no, I gotta think of more jokes. Everyone's counting on me, damn it.
Okay,
So Noah's notes.
Noah's notes. We have one that I want to like actually highlight first that I think is a good note.
Oh.
Is that he wrote, I respect that they actually say YouTube instead of just online, which is something that if a movie mentions the web, the World Wide Web, they usually say something weird like the World Wide Web instead of just saying like YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
I think they
for
did
a
that in the other movie that I watched this past week. That
The very
shall go
good horror
unnamed.
movie.
The very good horror movie. I think they literally said like, that's not gonna be on the web already, or like the
What?
World Wide. It was just dumb. I'm like, just say the fucking internet.
Yeah, right?
Or online. Like,
The web. Nah, people writing slang is always going to be weird. Just say the internet.
Let's just go on to searcher.go and find out what's going on.
I'm going to use Bing.
See, that's my favorite kind of thing is when they try to come up with a thing that's like, you know, it's totally not YouTube. And then you get a look at the website layout and it's like blatantly
And it's-
just supposed
I
to
was
be
gonna say,
YouTube,
and
and
it's
it's written
just
exactly the
2009
same
YouTube.
way. And yeah.
Yeah, I'm really glad they just said YouTube. I'm not sure what the like copyright or whatever like laws are that would prohibit people from being able to say YouTube. Because I assumed that has to be it. Like if they're not able to say it in other movies, but in this one they didn't show the site YouTube. They just said a YouTube video. I think that this is Nina's economic soapbox, but I think that companies are going to have to start accepting that, like, you know, how Kleenex is a stand-in for tissue, like, all around right now. That websites like Facebook and YouTube and that kind of thing are going to start to be like that as well, where they're just kind of part of the cultural lexicon and you can't just, like, use a standard, like, a video sharing site. Shut up. It's YouTube. Anyway.
Yeah. I had a conversation with my sister the other day where she said that she likes to use the word Google to refer to any kind of search just to try and devalue the word. And I was like, I lost my keys. Can you help me Google them?
Nice.
And so Jeff and Noah, I think you'll both find it very funny that when Jeff said I was talking to my sister, for a moment I had a solid second of, do I know Jeff's sister?
Wow.
oh my god.
I didn't know Jeff had a sister. I forgot.
It is weird for you to like say my sister instead of just Edge.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, come on, dude. My sister.
Well,
Next
I
thing
mean,
you know.
because like the podcast, I don't always want to refer to people just by names because, like, you know, listeners won't know who they are.
No, yeah, for sure. Next time you refer to me, please say my sister-in-law. I will accept nothing less.
I would probably, I'm
Refers
probably going
to
to say
you
my
on
brother's
this
wife
podcast.
instead.
Exactly. Yeah, no, please. Anyway,
So you know my brother's wife.
So
Porn
Nina, you
stash
know my
Paul.
brother, right?
Yeah. The first time, okay, I'll tell you after we're done with the podcast.
Okay.
We got one that just says porn stash Paul.
Yep.
It's a good note.
Another one that says, and I agree, when they go into the wine thing and they're like, I bet this wine tastes like ass. And Paul's like, no, because wine gets better with age. And Tony's like, shut up, dude. It's hot in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, wine gets better with age, but it doesn't get better with heat, Paul.
Well, and the bigger thing that a lot of people don't understand is wine gets better by aging it in like barrels and stuff. The aging process doesn't happen nearly the same way if it's been bottled already.
Mhm.
Also, it still needs to be in a cool, dark place.
Not
Yes.
in a brightly lit. Why is
Direct
the wine
sunlight.
room in that hotel so brightly lit as well?
Oh, because it's just the kitchen.
Wow. Anyway, this is brought to you by Waluigi. We've got Paul is just a weird dude.
Yep.
I have a lot of notes about Paul being like, hey, stop.
Yeah, he's a piece
Yeah.
of shit.
Okay, not as scary as I remember so far.
That was before the first time the clown appeared.
Yeah, it's immediately followed by, hey, it's the clown. Love that dude.
I love Slipknot.
I love Slipknot. There's a lot about, hey, look at that clown boy. Ooh, clowns.
One thing that I just remembered I really enjoyed is when they're throwing around some old props that they've used. When they're talking about, hey, we're going to have a guy in the kitchen. And then they have like a slab of face skin with like a face on it. They're like, hey, you remember this? It's like hard plastic, but it's like a face. And it just like takes it, he tosses it down somewhere. I just thought it was really fun the way they built up this world being bigger than it is by implying there being so much like stuff that they've done together.
Yeah.
We have a lot of stuff about the tension, which is fair. We have, hey, I had that phone. Mine didn't screech though. Major improvement, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's what was it? That was the Samsung.
Intensity.
It wasn't the Galaxy. Huh?
Intensity?
I don't remember. It slid sideways. That's all I remember for
That'd be
sure. It
the
had a full
Intensity.
QWERTY keyboard. Yeah, it was the Samsung Intensity.
We have Alex is also a small black book man. I respect it. So far we've learned that Noah's way too much like two of the characters in this movie. Same phone as one, writes notes down in a little black book for
Yeah,
another.
Tony's phone and Alex's small black book that he writes in. Yep, too much like two of the characters.
For any of our listeners who don't know, Noah is in the habit of carrying a little black notebook around in his pocket at all times.
It used to be worse.
It did
but-
used to be worse. But
I didn't know this.
Yeah, no,
Now
this
you
is a
do.
thing. I did it for like 3 full years. I always had a notebook on hand. Maybe more like 5 full years. I always had a notebook on hand. Just a little black notebook. It's all beat to shit now. But it has like, it was when I was doing production for some stuff. So it has like really mean-spirited notes about people in it.
Oh, really? It's not for like technical notes or anything
Amazing.
important. It's just a shit talk book?
No, it was both.
That's so much better. I've been making fun of you all this time for that.
no, it's not things he needs to remember. It's just a way to vent.
It was both.
We have the one where Mac's like, wait, Tony, you can't leave. You have to hear this. And then Noah just wrote, have to hear what now? What's the reason, Mac? I really want to hear the reason behind this.
And then we never
And
find
then we
out.
never find out.
Oh.
Thanks a bunch, Mac.
And then they just sit down in the field together. And I
He's like, you okay, man?
in a
And
non-homophobic way that was super gay. And like it didn't really fit. It didn't make
It
any
was so
sense.
weird, and that's why it made me feel like it was going to be such like a bigger thing.
Other than
But
we're out of money.
then it was like, oh, hey, we're out of money.
They
Like,
took
this
some
is-
valuable time away. Like, not that the movie's long at all or needs
no,
like
yeah, it's
more
like
of
85
anything.
minutes.
But it does take a good chunk of time to hint that something's going on, but never just say we're out of money. How hard is it? What's his name?
Mac, Alex, Tony, Paul,
No,
Sarah.
No,
That's everybody.
no, it's freaking. Hold on, I gotta do a call out.
It's Joe.
Steven. How hard is it to write that into the plot, Steven? Can't you just say they don't have money? Sorry.
we need you to like DM this guy and be like, hey,
Couldn't you do
as
better?
someone who has more followers than you,
You have
you
Required
have
by
to
law.
answer my question.
Isn't he verified though? I think he's verified. So
There's zero chance he's verified if he
Not
only
verified.
has like
his username isn't even an actual thing. His name is Stephen Cognetti. And his URL is SAJC05. Everyone follow him though, because apparently they're making a like short series about the history behind the Abaddon for Shudder.
Yeah, I'm definitely
and
gonna
Amazon.
follow him with the podcast Twitter
Please
There you
do.
and maybe tweet at him.
The only
Yeah, we
people I
gotta
know
get
that
his
follow him
follower count
are
up to
some
Nina's.
horror people as well. So
Steven, if you're listening to this for some reason, we really liked your movie.
we really like
Yeah.
the movie.
We're just
Except
we're
for
just
Jeff.
giving
We
you a
all
but I
hard time.
respect it.
We're just
We're
giving
being-
you a hard time.
we're sounding really mean right now, but none of us have ever written a movie. So like,
Yeah, you
and
did a good job, Steven.
And I actually
Thank
didn't
you.
think it blew as hard as the person on the forum thought it blew. So it made sense. I just
here's
didn't
a-
understand why they couldn't just say it.
here's a hard take
Yeah.
that I'm going to stand by. Anyone who doesn't like this movie doesn't get or doesn't like found footage. Like,
Which
Jeff,
is understandable.
you didn't
it's
like
okay
it.
to not like
Go
found
figure. You don't
footage.
like found footage. I guess I'm not
Yeah.
really surprised.
What a shock.
But like anyone else who is into found footage and then was like, and I hated Hell House LLC. It does not make sense to me. This is
Yeah.
A lot of people
the
wanted
conversation is natural. The
Mhm.
shaky camera makes sense. They make up like the action. There's a reason to be filming that no one had to say. Hey, well, I mean, they did say, hey, Paul, you got to put down that camera and actually lift a finger to help. And he's like, well, Alex told me to document the whole thing. But like, he also clearly did work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like here and there, he was just being a dickhead about stuff. And like the structure in the confines of found footage worked so well that if you don't like it, you just don't like found footage, and that's okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
But don't say that this is a bad found footage movie. Just say that you don't like found footage.
If a person who likes found footage doesn't like this movie, I would like to know what found footage movies they do like.
I would love to know that, because
if
I
they hate
can't
this but they
imagine-
like Blair Witch Project, then like they're just dumb. This is better than Blair Witch
yeah.
Project.
like you can like both, you can dislike both.
Oh, totally. Yeah,
But I can't imagine not liking this and then being like, Cannibal Holocaust is the only found footage movie I like. You know, like this.
Cannibal
bet you
Holocaust
listen
is
to
one of the
Mayhem,
only
don't
movies
you?
that Johnny says he won't watch. Johnny's my coworker.
That's a good movie not
That's
to
a
watch.
legitimate stance. I also don't
Yeah,
want to watch
no,
it.
I fully understand where he's coming from. I haven't seen it. So one thing I wanted to say was a lot of people, this is something I found with a lot of horror movies in general, that when a certain crowd of people don't like them. What was the other movie where I started talking about a certain crowd of people? Overlord.
Oh, I was gonna say all I remembered was Nazis.
Yeah, so
and
a
it took me
certain
a second, but yeah,
a certain
Overlord.
crowd of people doesn't like a movie. It's because I think of this quote that I saw on Twitter recently that was like, if a kid understands that real crabs don't sing like the one in The Little Mermaid, but if you show an adult a superhero movie, suddenly it's how does Superman fly? How do the eye beams work? You know, it's like, why do you need to explain that stuff? And I think that a lot of people looking at Hell House are like, well, how did this work? How did that work? This, that, and the other thing. And it's like, guys, sit back and just enjoy the freaking ride. You don't need to understand everything. In fact, I would say with horror, a lot of it is not the understanding of what's happening. It's more the like unknown aspect and what your imagination can make out of things. So.
Oh, totally, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, I did have a couple of like stupid, nitpicky, logistical questions about
Yes,
things.
please.
Like if these guys they stayed in the hotel for like a month and a half while they fixed it up and got it ready to be a haunted house. Did they just take all that time off of work? Do they have regular jobs?
I was wondering about that. I was
What do
wondering
they do
was
the
up.
rest of the year? How do they pay their rent? With that said, none of that has any bearing
This
on
one
the story.
event,
it doesn't
one
matter. I
single
don't
event
need
pays for a
those
full year of
answers. I
New
don't
York
need
City
to
rent.
ask those questions. But I was thinking them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I could see them being freelance
Okay, yeah.
and just like
You trying to tell me
They
that Paul
do.
isn't like some weird techie dude that like goes and sets security
Like some
cameras up?
kind of IT like specialist who will go and do that kind of setup. Definitely seems like at least Paul and Tony are freelance.
Paul's the one that sets up the porn blocker on your computer and then pulls you aside later. He's like, you know how to get around that though, right?
Yeah, it feels like Alex identifies as an entrepreneur and Sarah's just vibing. So
Yeah.
Sarah's just vibing.
poor Sarah. One thing that Noah and I talked about, and this is like my last point for the movie, is how different Sarah looks in the interviews to how she
Yeah.
looks. She definitely looks like a very, and you know, one other thing is in the beginning of the movie where she talks about how she's been staying with family and she says, I'm in a better place now. I already knew she was dead. That gave it away like right off. I was like, yeah, okay, so Sarah was dead. She's dead as hell. But yeah, no,
I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah, I didn't catch
I think
it.
she's like, oh, I'm in a better place now. And I'm like, so you're
Mm.
dead. But yeah, I think that she looked much more like gaunt and like sleep deprived and dead than she does in
Yeah.
all the flashbacks.
Yeah. I just thought
Yeah.
that was because she was so haunted by the experience.
Yeah.
That too. That totally could be it.
It's called Psst, Nina.
Pissed.
Maybe you should have spelled it
PTSD,
out
Jeff.
that time.
Pizzed. What was I gonna say? Anything else anyone wants to talk about, or
I would like to talk about the outro.
let's
Really?
do it.
I've heard about these. But
Yeah.
give me a vibe of the direction you're thinking.
Wait, I
So like in the outro, you kind of like, you're like, oh, hey, everybody, thanks so much for listening to this episode of the podcast.
Mhm.
We really appreciate your support.
This is with the brandy in front
as
of the
always,
fire, right?
you can find our podcast Twitter at Casual Horror Pod. And my name's Emma. You can find me at MJ2017 on Twitter if you want to talk to me or say hi. Don't look for me anywhere else because I won't add you. And then, like, everybody else kind of says where they can be found on social medias.
No, that sounds like a good idea. I think I remember outros.
Yeah.
I think I've seen people do these
with
before.
this outro, would everyone mind if I gave a quick shout out to our very few fans out there? Because they're cool and I want to say hi to them.
Yeah, totally.
They've got
Yeah.
great
So we have,
taste in
like, 3.
podcasts.
We have like
Great taste in podcasts.
They do. We have like 3. I am aware of. So firstly,
You gotta, if you forget to mention one of them, I'm gonna be upset with
I'm pretty
you.
sure it's going to be the first one I mention. Graham, hi. It's
Graham!
Nina.
Graham.
Hi, Graham, or as Noah called you at one point on the other podcast, Grant.
Yeah, no, I was really aggressive against Grant. And then I'm like, oh, wait, no, his name's Graham. Never mind.
Hi, Graham. Thanks for listening. It makes me really happy that you're interested in this. And yeah, hi. Thanks for listening. Also, Mia, it's wild to me that you've heard my voice at this point because we have been mutuals on Tumblr for a long time, and I'm really glad that you're listening to this and that you're enjoying it and that we're keeping men from hitting on you at stores.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's definitely the best thing that this podcast has ever done for anyone.
One of
Yeah.
my favorite things is opening up Twitter and just seeing that she has added the podcast, but no one has seen it yet. And I'm just like, I just happened to open Twitter and see it immediately. I'm like, nice.
And lastly, Will. I don't know if Will's still listening, but I know he was listening when we first started up. And as always, appreciate you, buddy.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Thanks for being the 3 coolest people on Earth as decided by us.
Hell yeah, brother.
If you're not one of the 3 people we mentioned and you listen, don't be offended. We just don't know because you haven't told us yet. For instance,
Yeah.
on Twitter at Bubbadabad, BUBBADABAD, where you reach out to me and say, hey, Noah, that podcast you're on sucks. But the
Oh,
horror
man.
one you're on, that one's pretty good.
Yeah, or you can follow or reach out to me at Nina Wolverina or House Usher Rises. I was told by a TikToker that if you like the Fall of House Usher as a Poe story, then you're a pretentious asshole who usually explains to people why it's your favorite. And I took that personally, but it's not even my favorite Poe story. It's just the one that made the best Twitter handle. So you can follow me there.
Nice.
And I'm Jeff. I'm the actor who usually plays Jeff on the Casual Obsession Horror Movie Podcast, the horror movie podcast where we talk about horror movies, and the only horror movie podcast that will prevent men from hitting on you at the grocery store.
True.
And you can find me on Twitter at BubbaWubbadab. You can find me on Instagram at The Hammer of Jeff. And contrary to what I said on the last episode, I haven't made a TikTok yet. Sorry. I'll get right on that.
Wow, slacking.
Gosh. Golly.
I am.
Sleeping on the job.
I won't lie,
Sleeping
when
on
he
the
came
job.
over the other day, I half expected him to be like, so I'm on TikTok now.
Yeah.
And he never did. And now here we
Yeah,
have the
'cause I
proof
wasn't.
that he's not on TikTok.
It would have been
So don't
untrue.
look for him on TikTok, but you can look for me on TikTok. It's also Nina
So-
Wolverina. But next week
We got a movie next week.
we do, and it's my choice. And I wanted to pick
Your
something
choice.
way more. It is it not?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh.
hyping you up. I'm a hype man.
No, but yeah, I wanted to do something more lighthearted because I felt like the last couple we did were pretty heavy to watch. So I'm picking a comedy.
Ooh.
We're gonna watch What We Do in the Shadows. I'm pretty sure that Yumi and Emma have already seen that, Noah.
Oh, you changed your mind.
I did because I don't want to
Unbelievable.
spend money on Ready or Not. It's still too new to be cheap. And What We Do in the Shadows is gonna be a pretty fun discussion anyway.
I do love that movie.
So yeah, that's it's available on Amazon. So definitely if you wanna check it out, it's funny. It's by the guy that if you're a Marvel fan did Thor Ragnarok. So there's that.
Taika Waititi.
Taika Waititi.
More importantly, he's the guy that made the Breaker-Upperers.
What?
He
The
also did
Breaker-Upperers. It's the movie
Hunt
that
for
he
the
made
Wilder
directly
People.
before Thor Ragnarok.
The Breaker.
was it Hunt for Wilder People? The one we watched together, Emma.
Hunt for the Wilder People.
that
yeah,
one's a good
he did
one
that
too. It's
That's a
not a
great
horror
one.
movie, but it's a real sweet one. So,
Yeah.
watch anything by Taika Waititi, but we'll only be talking about one of the movies.
Yeah.
He's just great.
He is.
Love that boy.
All right, yeah.
Thank you everybody for listening to this podcast.
Wait a
You're the
minute. You
best.
did that already.
I did that already, but I had to do it again. We'll see you next time.
I thought I was going to have to do that for way longer.